As I mentioned, it's extremely empowering when children can notice, or teenagers notice, when there's a problem and actually do some movements and activities to change that and to dissolve that from their system, from their body, from their mind, from their field. And children are amazing at this because it seems more natural for them. They haven't become so conditioned to think that they have to change everything by thinking about it. But they can move, they can dance, they can spin. And I worked with a family one time, a foster care family, which I've done a lot with. And this really works good because a lot of times these children come into families and they have tremendous rejection, abandonment issues, lots of abuse. And the life for the parents and the rest of the family can be extremely challenging because these children are acting out patterns that are not aware of, that are simply there from the trauma they experienced. And it can be very unsettling for parents to have some of these behaviors happen at times when it can be even violent. So one activity that I really like to do, I've mentioned it several times and it's really important, is the rebirthing, rebonding dynamic. So I worked with a family who, they got this boy when he was 4, and he had been practically raised in a stroller. There was lots of neglect, and so he was holding lots of fear. So when we asked him what he would like to do, he wanted to play like a dog. He wanted to go back into this pen and be there with the other dogs that were mean to him. And he wanted to act this whole scenario out about being in a dysfunctional place and then coming to this family. Now, he didn't say this, he just acted it out, and we followed it and we role-played with him. So when one of the parents came to get him, he hid and was afraid to come out of the cage. So eventually, she just stayed there with him, and the father also stayed there with him, and they kind of coaxed him out, and he came out. And for whatever reason, I'm sure it had to do with his background, he felt more comfortable with the father. So in terms of the bonding, we thought we might be able to do that with him, the birthing and the bonding, but when we started it, he went and hid because it was too scary. So what we did then is we took a teddy bear and had one of the parents actually take the teddy bear through the birth, do the bonding with the eye contact and the touch, creating a real high, joyful, resonating field. And so then he came close and actually put his hand on the teddy bear. So it wasn't long before he was able to do the bonding with both parents. And he had lots of challenges at school. Sometimes when he first started in school, they would have to come and get him almost every week because of his behavior. And eventually these things changed until about 3 years after this, at the end of the school year, he was voted best student of the month. And this kid is very bright, tremendous personality, and he learned how to do self-clearings for himself as well as the parents. They were very open, they were very courageous, and he knew how to spin anger from his system. He knew how to get down on the floor and do different developmental movements to change patterns, and he learned how to use music to dance these old energies out of his system. And so anything is possible. When people say, you know, I really have a hard time playing with my kids, they're just really difficult, the thing to remember is that this play and the joy and the healing, it's in us, it's innate. So we don't have to start by doing lots of things in the beginning, spending lots of time. We can just take a few minutes here and there during the course of a day and model things. One of the most powerful things for parents to do is just to model when they get angry, how they can begin to release these patterns and take responsibility. So there are many, many ways that families can use these activities, but the key is creating that sense of joy, that sense of play, and following and honoring the lead of the child, because they know what they need to do to heal, to move into wholeness. Sometimes you'll see patterns that several members of the family have. And I worked with a family, they had 3 daughters, a beautiful family, great parents, and it so happened that 2 of the daughters and the mother had the same nightmare. And this is a pretty violent nightmare. And anytime we have a challenging dream, we know that subconsciously we're getting information that we need to deal with, that we need to work with to change what happens in our daily life. So dreams are tremendous gifts to us. And this particular dream had to do with them actually being kidnapped, captured by pirates, and in a sense being murdered and losing their lives. And this trauma, wherever it came from, wherever it happened, stayed with all 3 of them, and it makes sense that all 3 of them experienced the same situation, or they may have absorbed it from each other. It doesn't matter. So what's really fun is acting out nightmares. And it doesn't sound like it, but the key here is to get into the fear and the trauma of the nightmare. So they had this feeling of getting kidnapped, and they're going to be tortured, and they're going to be killed. And we move through that into a playful scenario where they're dancing. We have balloons, and the balloons become the heads of pirates, and they're punching the heads around and laughing and having tons of fun. And they resolve it in such a way that they become the powerful ones. And the pirates become the ones that are dissolved and gone. And after that one scenario, all of those nightmares for all 3 of those individuals in that family disappeared. And so when these consistent, troubling nightmares or other patterns keep playing out, even patterns in everyday life, we can act them out, sometimes with animals, sometimes as we are, and we'll notice then changes in these patterns.